All right, I wanted to go over this today. I've been getting some questions regarding bands or weights or body weight. So I just wanted to kind of go over what some of the benefits of using bands were, how they can help and how they can be different from weights, but also how they can work together. So I'm going to go over two things of how bands are different. One is the push phase or the last phase of the lift, and two is point of origin. Point of origin, I know that might not make sense now, but it will in a second, trust me. Point of origin makes a bit more sense, so I'm going to start with that. So, when you use a dumbbell, let's say the dumbbell's in my hand here, okay, I'm doing a shoulder press, that dumbbell is going to move with my hand, okay, so that resistance is moving wherever my hand goes, it's staying with me, okay. With a band, the difference is that, let's say if I have it anchored down here and I'm pressing up, that point of origin is staying the same the whole time, so it's going to feel very, very different as opposed to the band, the anchor is staying in the same spot the whole time versus the dumbbell moving with your hand wherever you direct it. So it's going to feel very different. Two, why it's different is the last phase of the lift. Now what that means, every lift has three phases. You have your eccentric, which is the wind-up phase, or whatever makes you understand it a little better. Then there's the isometric phase, where you're pausing for a second. Then there's the concentric phase, where you're pushing up. Or if it's a pull-up, that where you'd be pulling up. So you have the eccentric, coming down, isometric, pause, concentric, push-up. Using weights, it's going to be fairly consistent. When you use weights, it's going to be harder at the start, and it's going to be a little bit easier when you get toward the end, you know. And I'm sure you've experienced that when you and that last, a few inches of a lift, it gets a little easier, and it gets and it gets a bit tougher in the first half. With bands, it's very different because that weight is going to be changing throughout the whole lift. With a band, on the way up, it's going to get tougher and tougher because you're stretching the band. On the way down, it's going to get easier and easier. So you might see guys in the gym when they're doing those bench press exercises, they're using bands because that makes it easier. If you can do it with bands, it's going to make it much easier to use weights. When I'm doing a shoulder press, I'm using a band, and that concentric phase gets tougher and tougher as I'm pushing up. These last few parts of the lift is the hardest. Then when I use a weight, where the last few parts are the easiest, it's going to be cake. It's going to be much, much easier. So if you want to improve on your weightlifting, then I would really recommend using bands. Anyone that's experienced in lifting and wants to get the best results is going to use bands. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how bands work. Now the bigger question, are bands better than weights? Are weights better than bands? The answer is, it really doesn't matter which avenue you use, bands or weights, as long as you're improving. But what I would recommend is doing a combination of both. If you want to get better at lifting weights and get stronger overall, I would recommend using bands because, like I said, it's really going to increase that last push phase. It's going to increase your control. It's going to enable you to lift a lot more. So if you want to get stronger, I would encourage you to use a combination of weights and bands. It doesn't have to be this band. It's just an easy one for demonstration for purposes of the video here. But if you like bands, let me know below. If you like weights, let me know below. If you have a preference of which one is better, let me know below. If you have any questions, I would just love to hear what you guys think and what your experience is with bands versus weights and any questions that you have, because at the end of the day, I'm here to help you guys learn what you need to do to get to your fitness goals. So if you do have any questions about bands or weights in general, I'm here to help. Let me know in the comments. Talk to you soon.